Well, it's the first week of May, and we leave for our through hike in less than 3 weeks on May 31st. I wanted to show you what we use as a cook system, what each person is carrying, what we carry as community gear, and talk a little bit about what we eat. And I'm also doing this video for a second reason is I've never really figured out how many boils I can get off of one of our canisters. So we cook off a canister stove, an MSR Pocket Rocket 2, and I'm always having to guess, do I have enough fuel to do 4 meals or 5 meals? When will I run out? Do I carry an extra one? So I'm gonna weigh the canister before I boil and then do a boil test and weigh it after just to see how many grams of fuel am I using and how many boils can I get out of a single canister. So this is most of what I carry for our community gear. This is a GSI How You Like kettle. It's aluminum, it's 1.8 ounces, and I'm able to fit several things in it that are helpful cooking. The first is a bandana. I find a bandana pretty handy for 1,000 different reasons, but I also put it in here so things don't rattle around in this pot while I'm hiking. That can get kind of annoying. I have a stand for the canister itself, and this is an MSR isobutane canister, 375 grams. On top of that, I'll put the Pocket Rocket 2. This is a pretty compact design. And then on top of that goes that How You Like 1.8 liter kettle. So most of what the 5 of us eat on the trail is usually freeze dried or dehydrated. Occasionally we buy rice or North sides or ramen. These things you can get at Dollar General or grocery store, and our system works for those things too, though it takes a little bit longer. So most of what we eat in warm meals is just reconstituted or rehydrated. For a lunch or a breakfast, we'll usually have something different. We won't usually cook for those 2 meals. We'll have bars, fruit, bagels, beef jerky, tortillas, tuna, whatever we can carry. Ritz is always a favorite, cheese. Each of the 5 of us are carrying a little cook kit like this. So this is a koozie, and inside it, wrapped up, is an Ole Camp 700 milliliter. That's about 24 ounces. This is an aluminum mug. It can also double as a pot. So if we do end up having to cook a meal, then we've cooked in these before. It's just, right now we only carry 1 stove. And so cooking 5 meals over a single stove is pretty costly on fuel, and it also takes a lot of time. So we don't usually do a lot of that. So what we do is we put our dehydrated or freeze-dried meal into here. Then we lay them all out in a line and we boil the water. We'll fill the mug up with boiling water, and then we'll tuck it into this koozie. The handles can hang out. We put a lid on it. We put the little top cover on, and we let this sit for maybe 10 minutes, 15, sometimes 20 minutes. Sometimes rice takes a while to cook like this, but we can let this sit for a while and it doesn't lose much heat at all, and it can cook itself. So each person is carrying this along with, this is a little Yuko spoon. It's a little plastic spoon, fork, or a couple of the boys have titanium sporks that they eat from. So this is the kit that each person is carrying. We are only carrying 1 stove and 1 kettle. So that's that 1.8 liter How You Like kettle, and then we just eat out of it. We usually can do a meal. In fact, I don't think we've ever needed a meal where we have to reheat water a second time. And that may change as we all get hungrier. So I'm gonna fill this up with about 1.8 liters. I weighed the canister I'm using before our video started, and it's 236 grams right now. So I'm gonna give it about 1.8 liters, and then we're gonna fire it off. My lighter got caught in my bandana. So we are in North Georgia, about a half hour from the southern terminus of the AT. It's low 60s right now, maybe 65. We're 1,400 feet above sea level. It's not windy. So for all you stove nerds, there's some data if you wanted to calculate it. I'm gonna time this as I do it so that we can also get a sense of how long this burned for. So here we go. Okay, so that boil time was about 9.5 minutes. It just got to a rolling boil. If this was filtered water that I was cooking with, I would stop it there, and then we would just line up the 5 mugs with food in them, and we would just top off with however much water we would need to cover that food in the mug. We'd set the mug in the koozie and just let it marinate for 10 minutes. If the water was not filtered, had we just gotten it from a stream or from a spring, I probably would let that roll another minute or two before I put it into our food, just to help make sure there aren't any contaminants in the water that would get us sick. I'm gonna take this out and the stove off, and I have my scale right here. That's 211 grams. So I started with 236 and I'm down to 211. That's a 25 grams of fuel. The windscreen, you saw me put this ridge rest closed cell foam pad around the setup. That seems to help quite a bit for the efficiency of the fuel. So with 25 or call it 30 grams on a 375, it's a 227 grams of fuel. So at 30 grams per burn, that would give me about 6 or 7 burns. So I'm reading on the side of the canister here, the weight of the canister in fuel is 375. The fuel itself is 227. So I've got about 6 or 7 burns in that canister. So then the question becomes, could we do it better? Well, so there are a lot of ways, there are a lot of systems and a lot of stoves out on the market right now. The canister stove is great for its convenience, and it works really well in the spring and summer when the temperatures are warm, but a canister stove really struggles on a cold morning or sometimes even a cold evening after it's been maybe on the outside or near the outside of your pack for a day. The efficiency of a canister stove plummets when the temperatures go down. And so our through hike is going to last from May until November. So I don't think we'll need to be worrying about cold meals until, maybe October or November as we get back into Tennessee, North Carolina, Georgia. In those cases, I might consider an MSR Whisper Light. It's a little heavier, but it's a stove that you pressurize with a pump, so you don't have to worry about the pressure dropping. Alcohol is a choice, and then the Jetboil is always a choice too. The Jetboil is a canister stove just like the MSR Pocket Rocket 2 is, but it's a system, it's a cook system that's optimized for boiling water. And so Jetboil sells the Sumo. The Jetboil Sumo is a 1.8 liter pot, just like the Halulite is. One reason I do like the Halulite is because it can cook on a fire if it comes to that. We hiked the Lakeshore Trail on the north shore of Fontana Lake in the Great Smoky Mountain National Park last Thanksgiving, and we got into kind of a dicey fuel situation. Part of it was my fault, not planning correctly. Part of it was the weather was just cold, and we were cooking 2 meals a day on some of those days, a warm breakfast along with a hot dinner. So we resorted to cooking on a fire twice, mainly to conserve fuel. So that's one thing I do like about the Halulite kettle, is its versatility in that respect. I did want to show another honorable mention. This is a pot we used for years backpacking. Cooking for 5 people is a little tricky on the trail, and so for several years we used this GSI aluminum pot. It's 3.2 liters, and it is big for most groups on the trail. You don't see many pots this large on the trail, but it's because not many groups are cooking for 5 people at the same time. And so one nice thing about this pot is you can cook a meal in it. So we've cooked chili and spaghetti. You can do all kinds of things, soups in here. It's got a nice textured bottom to it so that it doesn't slide around too much on the stove. The handles are insulated, and then the top has a neat strainer, and I don't know if you can see that in the video. It's got a strainer in the top that allows you to pour water off. It all comes in a nice mesh stuff sack, and so this pot has a lot of miles on it and has cooked a lot of great meals. We use it mainly now for car camping, but I wouldn't be too surprised if it made an appearance on the thru hike and towed along with us. It's a little heavier than I would like, but so speaking of weight, our system here with the kettle, the stove, the pot stand, it comes in at just under a pound, and then you add into that things like the fuel canister. Obviously, you need a lighter. I carry that bandana, so I'm in it maybe just right at a pound and a half. There are lighter options out there. The jet boil weighs in right at a pound, just like this setup does, and so I do think we'll start with this system we have, but I'm curious to see what we end up with. We've talked about maybe taking 2 cook systems, one for the boys and one for Joni and I, and so that might be a choice too. We actually do have two versions of this Pocket Rocket. We got the original, and this is the Pocket Rocket 2. So that might be something that happens too. Well, hey, if you have any questions or comments or even suggestions, I'd love to hear them. Let us know what you guys think. Thanks for watching.